Tying another wet fly from Ray Bergman's book Trout. This is called the Lady Miller. An interesting little wet fly in that the body on this is, other than the silver tinsel in it, it is all ostrich herl. And often you'll see that in as kind of an accent for a butt or maybe up the head or something like that in a lot of these flies. But this one, the whole body is white ostrich herl, and then there's a black ostrich herl rib on it. And I talk a little bit more about the ostrich herl and the specifics of it during the fly itself, during the tying of the fly. The one thing though, the turkey on this, it actually calls for a cinnamon with black tip for the wing. I don't have, the cinnamon that I have doesn't have a nice little black tip on it. And quite frankly, I'm flummoxed, and I'll talk more during the process of putting in the during the process of putting in the wing. I'll talk a little bit more about the turkey. I just not certain that I even have the right feathers, or at least the feathers that I have are the right quality, what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for a little input from anybody else in the community in terms of turkey feathers and what I should be looking for and possibly where I can source them. So anyway, that's the Lady Miller. It's a fun little fly, especially with the ostrich herl body. I get busy tying. So I'm going to start the Lady Miller with my hook and the vise. This is a Mustad 3399 in a size 6, just a standard wet fly hook. Debarb that, and I'll attach my thread. I'm using, to start out with, a white, this is a Danville 70 denier in white, because the body on this is a white ostrich herl. So even though there's some black ostrich herl with it too, I want to try and keep that from darkening up. So I'm going to go ahead and use the white. Now you probably could just, if all you have is the black, I think you'd be fine, because like I said, there's some black ostrich herl in here as a rib, and so there will be some darkening of the center of this. I'm going to attach my thread about an eye length behind the eye of the hook and run it down to just the point of the hook, and that's where I'm going to tie in the tail. The tail on the Lady Miller is just some golden pheasant tippet. I'm going to cut maybe 15 barbs out of there, something like that. I'm going to roll those a little bit so that the brighter side is on the outside. Then I'm going to tie those in. I want the black band to be just where the bend of the hook is, and that gives me just enough with that feather to get that tied in, and I'm going to keep wrapping and advancing my thread down the hook shank a little bit. Now, as I mentioned, the body on this is ostrich herl, white, and then there is a silver tinsel rib as well as a black ostrich herl rib. Now, one thing I want to point out about the ostrich herl is a lot of times when you go into a fly shop and you look around and you go to buy some, what you get is a large feather like this. I know all of this isn't in the frame, but it's a large plume. They also have packages of what they call ostrich herl. At least some manufacturers will package smaller segments that they label as ostrich herl. Depending on the hook size, you're going to want to use some of these barbs from the plume, because these barbules right here are going to be longer. The ostrich herl that you get in the individual packages, usually it's up near the tip of the plume, and the herls themselves are a better quality. They're a little bit more consistent and even, but the barbules on them are a little bit short. So they may not work with a larger hook like this. So just keep in mind, if you're in the market looking for some ostrich herl, that you can use the barbs off of a plume, and that is most often what I use. If I want something really nice, like say for an Atlantic salmon pattern for a butt or a little collar up near the head or something like this, then I'm going to go for the better quality ostrich herls. So right now I'm going to tie in the black ostrich herl because that's the last material that I will apply to the body. Bring that up on the side here because it's a rib. I'm just going to leave it on that far side and pull that back just a little bit into the body. I don't have to really worry or be concerned about a real smooth body on this. The next is going to be my rib. The rib is a silver rib. I'm using a Danville silver and gold Mylar tinsel in a size 16 and 18. I'm going to tie this in with the gold side out. I want to make certain that I do have the gold side out. Nope. Yeah. Yes, the gold side should be out because then it will flip over to the silver side. I get so used to tying so many of these with a gold rib that sometimes absent-mindedly I'll tie that in with the silver side out. Now I'm going to tie in my white ostrich herl. Now here's something else about this fly that's interesting. A lot of these flies, you want to have one piece of material that you tie in and wrap for your body, whether it's yarn, whether it's floss or whatever. You generally don't want to stop in the middle and tie in another piece because what you had wasn't long enough. But this particular ostrich plume that I have on these, there's only a certain length of this that's going to have barbules the right length for this particular hook. So what I found in tying this pattern is I have to generally tie in 2 of these. See, these are too short down here, so I'm going to cut those out. And then I'm going to tie this in where it's a little wider, but then they start to get short up here again. So you can, with this particular fly, you can get away with tying in, stopping halfway, tying in another one, and I could have looked for another. I'm pretty certain I have another white ostrich plume around that might have longer, fuller barbs to it, but I wanted to go ahead and do this just to show you how to do it, and that that can be done. So with my white tied in, I'm going to go ahead and attach my hackle pliers. You just have to be very careful with this because it's pretty strong in that regard, what's being tied on the hook, but where my hackle pliers is holding it is not quite as strong. If you pull too hard, you're going to snap that, and then everything comes unraveled, and you have to start all over again. I have had on occasions, and I might even with this one, had to tie in 3 ostrich plumes to get the length to fill the whole body up on this. And I may have to on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and advance my thread back here because it looks like I'll probably need 3 for this one. Something to keep in mind if you're going to be purchasing an ostrich plume for this kind of a fly or even anything else, take a look at it. Take it out of the package and take a look at it and look at the barbs on it. Do they have the fullness that you're looking for? Do they have the length that you're looking for? So with that anchored in, I'll trim off the rest of that. And all I'm going to do is tie in the next one a little bit in front where my thread is right now. And then I'm going to wrap backwards right up against where that herl ended. A little bit of wax on my thread. And in this case, I'm going to go up about the 1/3 spot right here, not quite up. I think I'll have to tie in another one. So the tinsel rib is the standard 5 wraps most of all of your wet flies have. You'll notice where I tied off the first ostrich herl and the second one I tied in, there was a little bit of a gap there, but the nice thing is that the tinsel went right into that gap, plus the fact that tinsel is going to present you some gaps anyway. So that's another reason why you can get away with adding in more herls on the body on this. Now, the black herl is also tied in or wrapped in as a rib. You're going to want to wrap this in and just follow, if you can, the back edge of that silver tinsel. I'm not 100% positive that that's the way to do it. Many of these wet flies that have a tinsel rib and then a palmered hackle that follows the rib will generally be tied in following the back edge. Either way, you can see the silver tinsel is still showing through, and the black ostrich is a nice contrasting color, so that works. Now I'm going to change over to my finishing thread. It's a Danville 70 denier in black. I've already put some wax on the thread. The throat on the Lady Miller is a gray hackle. I'm just using some schlappen that I have here, just some gray schlappen, just like on a lot of these other wet flies that I've done. I'm going to get my barbs together. Those are going to go in underneath about as far back as the barb of the hook. Have to take a little bit of care when wrapping things in here that we don't smash up the barbules on that ostrich herl body. Got a few little fibers sticking out there. I will clean this up, get my thread back for the wing. Now the wing on this, the recipe calls for a cinnamon turkey with a black tip, but all of my cinnamon, what's labeled as a cinnamon turkey with a black tip, is the black tip is just too wide. I can't even, if I even looked for, say, just a little bit right here off this corner, or let's say right up here, I still, half of my wing is going to be black. It's not just a small little bit. Now, Turkey and I have my turkey feathers. I have a love-hate relationship with these feathers because the recipes that they call for, like when they say a white tip, I've got these long white tips or black tip or something like that. I just can't seem to find the feathers that do what I see in the pictures. So I get by with what I have, and what I'm going to do here is just tie in a full cinnamon. And this is actually more of a dark mottled turkey here, but I'm just going to use this and consider it just a full cinnamon, which is kind of just a darker brown as opposed to the white and black mottled turkey feathers. And I'm going to go with that. So I'll cut my left and right slips out. Take one out. And I'll line up the other one. Anyone out there has more details on the specifics on turkey feathers, particularly flight feathers for wet flies, traditional classic wet flies, and even classic Atlantic salmon flies, would love to have a conversation, because I think I'm just missing something somewhere. I'm just not getting the right feathers that I think I need to be getting, or at least what I'm getting isn't the right quality. Sometimes if your barbules are splitting up a little bit, you can take these and just insert or just exhale some hot, moist air on them. The heat and the moisture will help to fluff those back out and realign them. So we're going to tie this in. See, that point shouldn't be quite so long, but I'm going to tie this in so that the bottom curve is just right at the end of the body. This, you normally would have that only about halfway down the tail, but it's going to go a little bit long. Get that set. Now that did not set right. It pulled down right behind the eye, not where I wanted it. And then my next wrap kind of grabbed the top of it and rolled it around. So I'll head back to the beginning. Yeah, see, that's all. That should be held together a little bit better. However, keeping in mind that when this is in the water, that wing, all of that just kind of breaks up, separates from the standpoint of it isn't a nice broad profile wing that's swimming through the water. So with the wing in place, I'll shape the head of the fly. Flatten my thread a little bit here, and I'll put a whip finish in. Generally, again, on these wet flies that have these turkey, mottled turkey, the cinnamon turkey, black tip, white tip, whatever, just the feathers that I have, they tend to be longer and thinner out on the end. I don't get just a nice short sweep up to the point of it, and this is what I end up with a little bit more. So if anybody out there has a little bit of knowledge in that area, please share it. Cut away my thread. I'll apply a little bit of head cement. That'll soak down in there. I'll come back and put a couple layers of clear lacquer on there on the Lady Miller, and then a top coating of black lacquer just to finish that off. That is the Lady Miller. Like I said, just kind of a fun, interesting pattern with I got one turkey barb down in here that's separated out. I just enjoyed mostly the body on this, the ostrich herl, the white ostrich herl, and the black as a rib. I thought was rather interesting, and that wing kind of flattened out there. But so there is the Lady Miller. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.